Hi out there. In 2017, April, I suffered an aortic aneurysm, which turned into an aortic dissection. What that is where the body's largest artery, the aorta, splits apart. When it splits apart, your chances of death are like 99.5%. You're going to die if you don't get immediate medical care. I was taken to the hospital, and for 8 hours, I laid in a semi-awake state, agonizing. They gave me pain, they did some tests, and they determined that I had a dissection. Then they called another hospital to see if they could take me because they weren't equipped to do the surgery. A couple hours went by. Finally, after 8 hours, they transferred me to a world-class hospital in Camden, New Jersey, where I underwent intensive surgery to correct the problem. I died. They brought me back. I lost massive quantities of blood, massive transfusions. The entire episode, most of that I don't remember because basically I was in severe pain, in and out of consciousness, etc. What happened from that point on is that I went into a deep coma. And in this coma, which lasted for about 30 days, I went into an extreme amount of suffering, mental torture, anguish, pain. In short, I was basically demonized by one demon, one group of demons, multiple demons after another. But before I get into that, I want to explain medically what happened to me before I get into the whole revelation that changed my life. The aortic dissection, I lost so much blood that what happened is I ended up having no blood flow to my lower limbs. So that was a problem. The other problem is that off of the aortic artery, there are several branches that one feeds a kidney, one feeds part of the intestine. So I had kidney failure, stage 6 kidney failure. I was on dialysis during my coma. Both kidneys had shut down. I had 5 major organ failures, including the heart, liver, lungs, intestines, and I believe the pancreas. Pretty sure it was the pancreas. But after I was in my coma for about 36 hours, the nurse called the doctor, explaining that there's something wrong with Mr. Baker. He is not doing right. Something's really wrong. Well, the doctor came over and they determined that 90% of my intestines were dead. My small intestine, my entire large bowel, which is well over 20-something feet. So the doctor did an emergency surgery, cut me open. This is after my other surgery, my other aortic graft surgery, where they corrected the graft in my heart, as you can see here from my trach scar. And then I have the scar right here, which goes all the way down. I'm not going to show the rest of it. But the bottom line is that they removed 90% of my intestines. So when I woke up 30 days later, I had what's called an ostomy bag on me, which has since been reversed. They reconnected my intestine. Now my entire intestine tract is less than 4 feet total, which is a miracle in and of itself. But what amazed me was that my my legs were blue, dark blue, and black. And I looked down at my legs when I woke up, and I said, "What happened to my legs?" And they said, "Yeah, this is just a complication of surgery. There's nothing we can do about it." So, long story short, they ended up cutting off both of my legs right below the knees. Now I wear prosthetic legs, Arnold Schwarzenegger bionic legs, which are, and I'll show you. I'll put a picture in this video at some point. Boom, show it in there for you. But the amazing thing about my life that people don't understand is that my entire life, I've always believed in God, but being an ignorant man that I am, I always fought God. And when you fight God, turns out that you don't get to win. You may think you get to win, but you don't get to win. And that is my problem. Arrogance, ignorance, and in other words, pure garbage as far as my thoughts are concerned. I lived a very horrible lifestyle. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, the whole 9 yards. I thought I could do whatever I wanted to do. And I became severely addicted 20-something years ago, about 20 years ago now, to heroin, which was something that I would have told you never in a million years could I become addicted to heroin, ever. Long story short, I got very high, very euphoric, felt like I could change the world and do whatever I wanted to do. And I have 3 kids at the time, still do, a wife, a beautiful wife. And I went off on a gambling spree and went down to Atlantic City and gambled and gambled and gambled astronomical sums of money and gambled away all my money. So one day when I was coming back from the casinos, I had $2 and change left in my, I don't know what you call it, the little compartment in your car, enough to pay for the tolls to get back, and I had maybe a quarter of a tank of gas. And when I got back to my hometown, which is about 60 miles away, I needed drugs. I didn't have any more drugs. I'd gambled all my money away. I had no drugs. And then a light went off in my head. Now you're talking to a guy, you're listening to a guy actually, who basically has lived a Boy Scout lifestyle his entire life. Family man, the whole 9 yards. I had my own construction company. I owned 5 internet websites, web businesses at the time. And the amazing thing about it is, because my heroin addiction had reached to such a point that for some reason, you can call it insanity, you can call it the devil, you can call it temptation, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I remembered that I had taken away a pellet gun, a 9mm styled pellet gun, Glock styled pellet gun from my son about a week earlier for shooting up the ceiling with pellets. So I walked into a bank, drove right into a bank, got out of the car, walked in just the way I am right now, except I had hair then. I think I might have put a baseball cap on, maybe a pair of sunglasses. I don't even remember. I walked into the bank and I robbed it. I walked right out, drove right down the street, and as I'm driving down the street, the police are coming the other way. I even pulled over to the side of the road. Long story short, I went on to rob 4 more banks, all to feed my heroin addiction. Now, what makes this story ridiculous is that my family all has money. I could have asked them for money. I wouldn't do it. I had that weird little pride thing. Don't get me wrong, I never stole from my family. So my rationalization, which was wrong, was if you're going to steal something, go rob a federally insured bank, which is what I did. Because after all, it's not their money, it's the federal government's money, and blah, 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 blah. They owe me money anyway. So you rationalize all this garbage in your life. And then you realize that there's a task force, an FBI joint task force set out to find you because you're now considered a serial bank robber. And lo and behold, guess what happened? They found me. They figured out who I was. They raided my house early at 7 o'clock one morning, and when I came to the door, I had been completely naked, no clothes on. I had just finished doing a massive amount of drugs. And when I opened the door, I had little red dots all over my body, laser beams. And then I was taken into FBI custody, charged with bank robbery. And for the next 15 years, I went to prison. Now, this isn't the whole story, but it's the story I'm telling today, because for me to get into the entire prison thing would be astronomically long, and maybe I'll make another video about that and tell some stories about prison and what you really need to know about prison, about the predators in prison and the lifestyle in prison and the guards in prison and what you do and what you don't do. If you want to hear a video like that, you have to leave a comment for me to know, because I don't know. This is my first YouTube video. But the purpose of this video is because I feel, hold on. Sorry about that. I actually had someone knock on the door. Don't they know I'm shooting a YouTube video? So anyway, the purpose behind this particular video is the fact that I had written a book. It's still on Amazon, called Revelations of Heaven. And I'm going to put a screenshot of the book here for you. I'll also include a link for the book. But what happened is that people who've read the book said, well, you need to do a YouTube video so you can talk about what happened, because a lot of people would be interested and maybe more people would buy your book. I said, well, listen, I don't want to go off hawking books. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm really not. Don't get me wrong. If I sell 1 million copies, I'd be very happy, of course. I would be lying to you to think not, to even utter such nonsense that anyone would be happy with selling 1 million copies of anything, let alone 10,000 copies. But so anyway, I write the book and I try to give it away for free. And lo and behold, nobody wants anything for free. Nobody. So I reluctantly published it on Amazon. I did a ebook, which is available right now for 99 cents, and I did a paperback, which is $7.99. But the paperback comes with printing costs and things like that. That's why it's $7.99. You can't do it too much lower than that. I think the lowest price you can do is like $6.40 something. So anyway, while I was in my coma, and this is what really, this is what really changed my entire life, was that in my coma, I thought I was dead. And even though my coma only lasted 30 days, to me, my coma didn't last 30 days. It lasted years. Why did it last years? I don't know. But for me, it was an endless loop of torture and regret and sorrow. And I knew that I had been living my life wrong in debauchery. I knew that when you really look inside of yourself, when you're all alone and you say to yourself, am I living a good life? And I'm not talking about the bank robbery. The bank robbery is something completely different. I'm talking about the sexual promiscuity. I'm talking about the pornography. I'm talking about the anti-God stance I had. You know, I blamed God for everything. You know, from my childhood to my broken marriage to why I became a drug addict. You know, it was always somebody else's fault in my life. And ultimately, I ended up fighting God. And like I said earlier, when you fight God, it turns out, yeah, you can fight him if you want to, but you don't get to win. And when I woke up from my coma and realized what had happened to me, I was confused, of course, but immediately the memories of everything that happened to me in my coma came flooding back. And it was devastating. It was devastating because I had been confronted and demonized by pure, unadulterated, evil entities. Now, there are people who will say, this is what happens when you're in a coma. People see heaven and they see hell and they see this and they see that. And I'm not saying I went to heaven. I'm not saying I went to hell. I'm saying that I was demonized, which is completely different. It doesn't mean that I wasn't in hell. It doesn't mean that I didn't get revelations from heaven. It just means that my knowledge base is based on the fact that I can only tell you what happened to me. For me to tell you anything else, you know, you see these guys say, oh, man went to heaven and saw Jesus Christ. Well, good for him. I'm glad he did. I didn't go to heaven and see Jesus Christ, and I didn't go to hell and see the devil, at least not that I know of. But I did encounter demons, very crafty, very seductive, and beautiful demons, who right before my very eyes, after I rejected them and started calling out to God, turned into the most hideous creatures you could ever imagine. Now, look, before I go any further, it seems to me that within my coma, there were periods of torture, and then there were periods of where I had what I call my angel come and take care of me. And I was blinded in my coma. I couldn't see the person taking care of me, but I could see the demons. I knew it was a woman, and I knew that she kept on telling me that everything's going to be okay. And then she would leave. And after she would leave, the demons would come back. And then they would torture me and tempt me. At one point in time, they said, why do you call out to him, to God? He doesn't love you. He doesn't care about you. We love you. And I knew inside of my heart, in here, and in here, in this big fat head of mine, that they were lying to me. I knew, you know a lie when you hear a lie, and it was a lie. I knew you didn't love me. I knew you weren't good there. They said that they would give me incredible pleasure. And I'm going to recount one story because I don't want this video to be five hours long, because if it's too long, people won't watch it. This is what all the experts tell me. Whoops, I found some hair up here. So anyway, I found myself, after one episode of a demon with another episode of a demon, I then found myself once again walking into a situation down an old country road where there's nobody about, not a dog, not a bird, nothing. And then all of a sudden I see a woman by a well. And she smiles at me and waves me over. And the next thing I know, I walk into her house with her. And she makes me some food. And she goes to a door and she's talking to somebody, but I don't care because I'm eating this food and I'm so happy to be eating this food. And she invites me into this door, which is a bedroom. And I walk into the bedroom and she closes the door, and it's not just her. There's two others with her, two other beautiful women. They quickly take me down to the bed and basically start to try to initiate pleasuring me in every way. The pleasure that I felt was incredible. I'm not talking about being sexually touched. I'm talking about a pleasure that was like a mental, powerful love type of pleasure, where when you feel somebody's embrace that really loves you and cares about you, and then it's almost as if they had no choice, that they had to tell me the sale line. They had to say, look, if you give up God and come to us, we will protect you, we will take care of you, we will love you forever. And that's basically what they did. And I pushed these women off, these demons off. And they said, again, I'm repeating again, why do you love him? Why? He doesn't love you. We love you. We've always been there for you. And I knew in my heart that it was wrong. And I didn't want to leave that pleasure, because I knew that the minute that pleasure was taken away from me, I would be back in pain again. But I also knew that if I didn't reject them, I would be committing myself to the devil. That much I knew. So I rejected them, and before my very eyes, they turned into the most hideous creatures you could ever imagine. Horror films do not do justice to what I've seen. And this is just one part, one little tiny episode of my quote unquote years of being demonized. 30 days in a coma turned out to be, for me, years. When I woke up from my coma, I was confused. I didn't know what year it was. I didn't even know when I woke up from my coma that I was still, quote unquote, a custody of the Department of Corrections, that what happened to me while I was in prison. I didn't even know it. I actually didn't even know I committed a crime. I couldn't remember my daughter's name. I couldn't remember, I couldn't remember all sorts of things. I can't remember all these things right now because I still actually have some memory loss, but not to make an excuse. But bottom line is that it's devastating, you know, and it altered my life. And I prayed ceaselessly to God to forgive me for my life of sins, for my disgusting life, for my debauched life, for my miscreant life, for all these things that I did that were so reprehensible, and they were. And so I woke up from my coma, and it took me a couple of days to get together. And there are other things that happened right after my coma, which I can't get into in this video because this video is going to be too long. But, you know, if you want me to make another video to extend what happened after that and to explain some other things that are really amazing, that's fine. I will. But I don't want to just create videos just to create videos. If you want to learn more, there's an excerpt. You can read an excerpt of my book when you go to Amazon to see if you want to buy it or not. I think you can get it for free on Kindle Direct. I don't know, some sort of thing on Kindle if you're like a part of a club or something. But yeah, I'll leave the link for the book, and I hope you'll take a look at it, and I hope you'll share this video. I just want everyone out there to know that God is real, that he does love every one of us, and that we do have a choice to make in life. We can either serve God or we can serve the devil. We have a choice. It depends on whether or not you want to make the choice. You want to put it off? You want to wait till you're 93 years old before you decide? I don't know what you want to do. But for me, the person I was, I'm familiar with sin. I'm familiar with all these things in the world. I'm not naive to them. They don't exist for me anymore. I have no desire to commit them because I committed myself fully to God. And I don't want people to say, oh, this guy's a religious fanatic or whatever. And maybe I am. But I'm a normal guy. I like to joke around and have fun and have a good time. But I wanted to share this video. And I do pray sincerely that all of you have a good day or a good night, depending on what time it is. And God bless all of you. Thank you very much.